What's up, everybody? It's your boy Wings of Redemption, and I want to go ahead and tell this story since everybody was so interested in my childhood from yesterday's video. I hope you guys enjoy it, because I'm going to enjoy telling it. I want to talk about my very first car, and to do that, we need to go and put some leg room up for what my very first car is. Very first car was a 91 Honda Accord EX. It had the 2.2 liter with an inline 4, and it's a 4-speed automatic transmission. Alright, here's the kicker, though. It was like 2000, it was like 99, 2000 before I got my first car. Let me see, 14, I think I was, so in 2000 I was 14, so in 2002 I was 16, so it was like 2002, 2003, so this car was already pushing 13 or 14 years old when I actually got the car itself. So it was an old car. We paid $2,700 for it. But the fact is, it gave me one moment of freedom that I will remember the rest of my life. You know, I hated this car. I did. I detested it. It wasn't because of what it was. It wasn't because it was a Honda. It was because it was an old car. It was an old car. It had 142,000 miles when we bought it. It had a sunroof. It had a deck player. It had nice cloth seats in it. Didn't have vinyl seats or anything. It was a nice car. Probably back in 1991. It was probably a really showy car back in 1991. The only thing it didn't have was the V6 and the leather seats. Everything else, it was loaded out. The reason I didn't like this car was mainly because I ran into a slew of problems with it. The fact is, there's what you call 100,000 mile blues with the car. Generally, cars get 100,000 miles. You need to change like the spark plugs, and on that case, it had points as well. You need to change the spark plugs, plug wires, distributor cap. I'm sorry, I didn't have points at it. Distributor cap because it was so old. It's 91, but it was a fuel injection 91. They still did carburetors in some places, but this did a fuel injection, so that was kind of cool because I had a fuel injected 91. So that right there shows you that it was actually a higher class car back in this day. But there was a lot of stuff that went wrong. One, the fuel pump started going out in it after about owning it for about 3 months. The paint was shot. Those of you who don't know, back in the day, the paint departments of car sales or car teams was really crappy. You might see them. It was until recently, almost all paint on cars sucked for the most part. Dodge is notoriously bad for it. Like you'll see a Dodge and they'll have that like clear coat that's like peeling off of it. I'm saying Dodge because that's the ones I see the most of. Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth, They had a really crappy paint department all the way up to like 2004 before they actually changed their standards. Like Ford and BMW have always had better paint than like Chevrolet and Dodge and Honda and all these other people. But everybody nowadays, they have about the same paint quality, paint scheme that people know to expect. But this Honda had the worst paint ever when I bought it. I mean, big gaps of clear coat coming off of it. It almost looked like it was shedding its skin because you could pull off pieces of clear coat. It almost looked like a plastic bag. Oh man, that car. Needless to say, it was a money pit and a half. The very first thing I wanted was a CD player, and there's a story behind the CD player in itself. Because it had a deck player. And by this time, this is 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere in that ballpark, deck players were well out of style at that point. You could still get cassettes at that point, but CDs were large and in charge. It's almost like Blu-ray versus DVD now. DVDs are really still prevalent. Well, no, it's almost like VHSs when DVDs were took over. VHS was still around when you might see one VHS versus 5 DVD, but people didn't really buy them anymore. So I needed a CD player because this was the golden age of ripping music. This is when music, Napster and Kazaa. I don't know if you guys remember Kazaa. There used to be a thing called Kazaa and Kazaa Lite. These peer-to-peer things started popping where you share music as MP3s. MP3 used to be a great thing. So I eventually got a $50 CD player from Walmart, and we attempted to hook it up ourselves. Keep in mind, I was like 16 at the time, and I had no clue how to hook up a CD player. So the first thing I did was actually cut the wiring harness off of in the back of the car where they actually factory wired a wiring harness to the radio. I ended up cutting that. So from then on, every time we put something in that car, we had to wire each wire individually with little clear connectors. And that was the first fuck up I had. This is well before my brother. My brother was a little younger than me, and this was right about the time we started getting into cars. And this Honda actually helped along that whole, yeah, we got to get into car, because we had to change so much stuff in our first cars. I had a Honda Accord. My brother had like a 96 Civic, and his Civic was like a 1.4 manual, but he wanted to hot rod it out because Fast and the Furious had just came out too. So, you know, we had the perfect cars to Fast and Furious. I mean, I almost was contemplating a turbo. But back to the CD player, I messed that up horribly. And then my next mess up was I wanted to start establishing my credit. So what my mother did is she did the same thing her mother did for hers. We went to First Citizens Bank and we took out a $500 loan. Well, what did I want to do with my $500? Well, I gave my $500 to my brother for his stereo system in his car because he needed money for something. So I agreed. We gave him $500 for new speakers, you know, deck, the whole nine, and put it into my car. And my brother did such a crappy job of installing it. I mean, he had no. I mean, he pretty much hot wired. I mean, straight wired it to the battery. I mean, there was no fuses, nothing. If the bass hit too hard, it would stop and actually come off the amplifier itself. He mounted the amplifier to the box. If you could have done it wrong, it was done wrong in my car. And like what it ended up doing is it ended up started popping electronics in my car. And the first thing to go was the speedometer. And by this time, I had gotten a job with Domino's Pizza. And the speedometer was kind of important when you deliver pizza because you do a lot of slow driving and you pretty much want to watch your speed because you're always out there. And oh my God, I would have to. What I eventually learned is how many RPMs it took to keep up with somebody else. So if somebody else was going around 55, I'd kind of predict which car was going 55, and I'd try to keep pace with them. And I'd look at the RPM gauge. And if I was keeping pace with them, like, all right, this many RPMs in third gear is 55 miles an hour. Oh, man. This thing's almost over. And I haven't even told the story I wanted to tell. I'm pretty sure everybody's done this. So this is just a short version of it. I had my very first burnt CD. It was 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. And we listened, me and my buddy Kelly, you know, Zoid Bass Commander, we listened to this CD probably 1,500 times in the span of a summer because we didn't have any other CDs to listen to. But I'm going to continue this on another video. It's been your boy, Wings of Redemption. Thank you for leaving a rating. Thank you for helping me out and supporting my channel. As always, I'll talk to you guys later.